The exploration vessel drifted through the violet nebula like a silver needle threading cosmic fabric and inside its sterile corridors. Captain Lisa Morgan reviewed the latest sensor data with growing concern, because 3 weeks into their deep space mission, the crew had detected something impossible on the edge of charted territory where no civilization should exist. Bridge hummed with quiet efficiency as her second-in-command, Amy Carter, approached with a data tablet, and her expression carried that particular mix of excitement and worry that Lisa had learned to recognize over their 5 years. Serving together in the exploration corps, we have visual confirmation now, Captain. And you need to see this yourself because the structure is massive and unlike anything in our database, and it's definitely artificial, and it's definitely active. Lisa took the tablet and studied the image that appeared on screen, showing a crystalline palace floating in the void, and its architecture defied human understanding, with towers that twisted through impossible angles and surfaces that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously, and energy signatures pulsed through it like a heartbeat, and the whole structure measured nearly 50 kilometers across. How did our long-range scans miss something this large? And Amy simply shook her head because the answer troubled her as much as the question itself. It wasn't there yesterday, Captain, and I mean that literally, because we passed through this exact sector 48 hours ago during our initial survey sweep, and there was nothing but empty space and debris. And now this appears, and every scan we run shows it's been here for centuries. Based on the material degradation, but that contradicts our previous data. Lisa felt that familiar tingle at the base of her skull that always preceded significant discoveries, and she knew they had stumbled onto something extraordinary and possibly dangerous, and the protocols were clear in such situations. But curiosity warred with caution in her mind. Hail them, and let's see if anyone is home, and use standard first contact procedures, and keep weapons offline but shields at maximum, and I want Kelly at the helm ready to jump us out if things go. Communications officer worked her console with practiced efficiency and broadcast their greeting across all known frequencies, using the universal mathematical sequences that humanity had developed for first contact scenarios and for long minutes. Only silence answered them, and then the entire ship shuddered as something powerful locked onto their hull. Captain, we are being pulled toward the structure, and I cannot break free, and engines are at full reverse, but we are accelerating toward the central tower. Lisa gripped her command chair as the viewport filled with crystalline architecture, and their ship moved through an opening that dilated like a living iris, and they passed into a cavernous hangar that could have held 100 vessels their size, and when the pulling force released them, they floated in the center of the space while lights activated around them. In sequence, atmospheric readings show breathable air outside, and gravity is 0.9 Earth standard, and temperature is comfortable, and no biological or chemical hazards detected, and the scan officer reported from her station, while Lisa made the decision that would change everything. MA, assemble a first contact team, and you're with me along with Dr. Kate Phillips from medical, and Lieutenant Megan Ross from security and standard equipment and recording devices, and we make peaceful contact if possible, but we stay alert and we stay together. The airlock cycled open, and the team stepped into the hangar wearing their exploration suits and carrying no visible weapons, though each suit had defensive measures built into its systems, and the floor beneath their boots felt warm and slightly yielding like living tissue rather than metal or stone. And ahead of them a corridor opened, and soft light beckoned them forward. They walked for what felt like hours through halls that changed color and texture as they passed, and sometimes the walls showed images of alien worlds and creatures that defied description, and sometimes they became transparent, revealing the void beyond and stars that burned in colors human eyes had never witnessed before. And throughout it all, a presence seemed to watch them and guide them toward some unknown destination. The corridor ended at a massive chamber where the walls curved upward into darkness, and in the center of the floor a throne rose from the ground, and seated upon it was a being that made every human in the team stop and stare, because she was beautiful and terrible and utterly alien. Her form was vaguely humanoid but stood nearly 3 meters tall, with skin that shimmered between silver and deep purple, and her face held features that were almost familiar, yet wrong in subtle ways that triggered ancient warnings in the human brain. In her eyes were vast pools of liquid starlight that held intelligence and power beyond measure, and from her head flowed what might have been hair, but moved with its own will like tentacles of living light, and she wore robes that seemed woven from space itself with galaxies swirling in their depths. Being rose from her throne with fluid grace, and when she spoke, her voice resonated not in their ears but directly in their minds, and it carried harmonics that made their bones vibrate and their thoughts scatter like frightened birds' eye. I am Zaraketh, and I am the last of my kind, and I have waited here for millennia because I knew eventually someone would come, and you humans interest me greatly because you are young and vital, and you spread across the stars with such enthusiasm and such chaos. Lisa stepped forward and pushed down her fear and activated her suit translator, though she suspected it was unnecessary given the telepathic nature of their communication. I am Captain Lisa Morgan of Earth, and we come in peace seeking knowledge and friendship with other civilizations, and we mean you no harm, and we are honored to meet. Zaraketh descended from her throne and moved closer, and her presence was overwhelming, like standing before an ocean or a storm, and yet Lisa held her ground and met those alien eyes with as much courage as she could. Summon peace and friendship and knowledge and such simple concepts for such complicated creatures, and I have observed your species for some time now, since your first stumbling steps into the void, and you fascinate me because you are driven by urges and needs that my people long ago transcended, and yet you thrive where we failed. Circled the human team and studied each member with intense focus, and when she passed Amy, the alien queen paused and tilted her head in a gesture that was almost human in its curiosity. You reproduce biologically in such a primitive method, and yet so effective, and my people created new members through technology and precision engineering. And we controlled every aspect of our offspring, and we removed all chaos and all chance, and within 10,000 years we had perfected ourselves into extinction, because perfection has no room for adaptation and no capacity for survival. Kate, the medical officer, found her voice. Despite her trembling hands, and her scientific mind overcame her fear, because here was a being with knowledge that could advance human understanding by millennia. How did you survive when your people did not, and what makes you different from them? Zaraketh turned her full attention to Kate, and something like sadness passed across her alien features. I was the queen, and the last queen, and I refused the final optimization, and I retained what my people called flaws, and I kept my emotions and my curiosity and my capacity for change, and when the great silence came and my people faded into irrelevance, I remained. Because I was imperfect enough to adapt, and I have endured alone for longer than your species has existed, and I have learned and observed and waited. She moved back to her throne, but did not sit, and instead she gestured, and the walls of the chamber came alive with images of human civilization, and Lisa saw Earth and the colonies and ships traveling between stars and families and cities, and the countless small moments that made up human existence. Have watched you humans multiply and spread, and struggle and succeed, and I have studied your method of reproduction with great interest, because it is so chaotic and so inefficient, and yet so remarkably successful, and you combine genetic material and random patterns, and you invest enormous resources into raising helpless offspring, and the whole process takes years and is filled with difficulty and pain. The images shifted to show human families and children growing, and parents caring for their young, and the alien queen watched these scenes with an expression that might have been long enjanned, yet you do it willingly and repeatedly, and you form bonds around this process that strengthen your entire civilization, and the love between parent and child and between partners creates networks of care and support that make you resilient beyond your individual capabilities. Megan, the security officer, glanced at Lisa with concern, because the direction of this conversation was becoming strange and potentially dangerous. And Lisa gave a subtle hand signal to stay calm and remain ready. Your Majesty, why do you show us these things, and what is it you want from Zaraketh? Turned, and her eyes blazed with sudden intensity, and her voice filled their minds with greater force. I want to understand, and I want to experience what I have only observed. I want to know if this method of reproduction could save my species, or at least allow me to create something new and something that might endure beyond my own existence. Stepped forward, and her medical training overcame her diplomatic caution, because she recognized the ethical implications immediately.